Indie Author Lab from the Alliance of Independent Authors is a brand new in-person event for indie authors during London Book Fair Week. Taking place in London on March 11, 2026, it's a full day of mentoring, workshops, and community connection. Created for indie authors by indie authors. Learn more and secure your tickets at selfpublishingadvice.org/indieauthorlab. Welcome to Self-Publishing with ALLi. Today's episode is Publishing for Profit with Joe Solari. Transform your passion into income. Understand the balance between artistry and entrepreneurship and how ALLi can guide you in this quest. And now, here's your host for Self-Publishing with ALLi, Joe Solari.
Today, we're going to break down success in publishing and talk about dealing with the significant random component that no amount of tactical execution can eliminate. I'm also going to tell you something hopeful. The market isn't locked. New winners emerge constantly. The question is whether you understand the game well enough to position yourself for when luck finds you. This is about understanding power law markets, the role of randomness in success, and why most publishing education fundamentally misunderstands how winners actually emerge in the marketplace. Let's start with one of the most important experiments ever conducted about cultural markets. In 2006, Segalnik, Dodds, and Watts ran the experimental study of inequality and unpredictability in an artificial cultural market. I know that's a mouthful. This experiment should change how you think about success in creative markets. It certainly did it for me. They created an artificial music market, a website where people could discover, listen to, and download songs by unknown bands. Here's the setup. They had 14,000 participants and 48 songs. They created 9 separate worlds, 9 parallel markets where different groups of people could discover and download the same song. In some of those worlds, participants could see how many times each song had been downloaded. In other worlds, there was no social information at all. The question was simple. Would the same songs become hits in every world? The answer was shocking. No, not even close. In worlds without social information, where people just listened and decided what they liked, success was more evenly distributed. Songs that were objectively higher quality, as measured by an independent rating system, did somewhat better, but no massive hits emerged across all 9 markets. In the worlds with social information, where people could see download counts, power law distributions emerged. A few songs became massive hits. Most songs failed. Classic winner-take-all dynamics. But here's the critical finding. Different songs became hits in different worlds. The song that finished first in one world finished 40th in another. The song that downloaded 1,000 times in one world only had 100 downloads in another. The exact same songs presented to a similar audience with the same social mechanics produced completely different winners. Success was partially random, not completely random. The very worst songs never became hits. But among songs of reasonable quality, which ones broke through was substantially unpredictable. Let me repeat that because it's important. Success in winner-takes-all markets is partially random, even when the products and the mechanics are identical. That's the recipe we are all looking for, right? The mechanism. Now let's connect this to publishing, because publishing is exactly this kind of market. Readers discover books through social signals, Amazon recommendations, bestseller lists, word of mouth. The exact dynamics that create unpredictable winners in the music experiment are the same in publishing. And that's because they're both complex, self-organizing systems. Recipes don't work to cause an effect. They only can create some type of influence in a system that self-organizes. This explains something you've probably observed. Books that seem similar in quality, often with wildly different outcomes. One author series takes off and hits 7 figures. Another series with similar quality and comparable marketing languishes. The recipe sellers will tell you that the successful author must have done something different. Better covers, better blurbs, better ads, better something. But the artificial cultural market study suggests another explanation. They got lucky. It was timing and initial momentum in a way that triggered cumulative advantage. Here's how cumulative advantage works in these markets. Small random differences in early visibility creates small differences in downloads or purchases. Those small differences become visible through social signals like bestseller ranks and also bots, massively amplified by recommendation algorithms that increase visibility, and that leads to more purchases. The feedback loop amplifies initial randomness into massive outcome differences. The song or the book that got a few early adopters through pure chance can end up dominating the market, not because it was meaningfully better, but because early luck triggered a compounding advantage cycle. This is why publishing is a power law market, not because the best books always win, but because social feedback mechanisms amplify initial differences into an exponential outcome. And this is why recipes fail, because recipes assume success comes from execution. But when success has a significant random component, execution alone can't guarantee the outcome. Now, here's the hopeful part that the study also reveals. These markets aren't locked. New winners can emerge. The power law distribution is constantly churning. Let me be clear about what this means. Yes, authors currently at 7 figures have advantages. Yes, they have competitive moats. Yes, they are hard to displace directly. But the market isn't a fixed hierarchy. It's a dynamic system where new authors break through constantly. Why? Because the same randomness and social feedback loops that created current winners can create new winners. Think about how readers discover books. Yes, they follow their favorite authors, but they also browse bestseller lists. They click on also bots. They talk to their friends. They see things on social media. Then they try new authors, and when the algorithm recommends them, then they try new authors and they respond with their social proof in their reading communities. Every one of those discovery mechanisms creates opportunities for new entrants. A book that catches early momentum for random reasons, a social media post that goes viral, an influencer mentioning it and hits the right moment in the algorithm can trigger the same cumulative advantage. The artificial cultural market study proves this. When they reset the markets and ran the experiment again, different winners emerged. The previous winners didn't automatically win again. The market restructures around new successes. Publishing works the same way. The current bestsellers won't be bestsellers in 5 years. Some will, but many won't. New authors will break through. The question is whether you're positioned to be one of them. So let's talk about what this means for the scaling systems and the 6-figure formulas being sold. If success were purely deterministic, if the best book with the best marketing always won, then recipes might work. You do X and Y to get Z. The causality would be direct. But the artificial cultural market study proves success isn't purely deterministic. It has significant random components, which means first, execution doesn't guarantee outcomes. You can do everything right and still not break through because you didn't get an early momentum lottery ticket that triggers cumulative advantage. Second, backwards analysis of successful authors is totally misleading. When someone analyzes a 7-figure author and what they did and packages it as a recipe, they're reverse engineering success without accounting for the random components that may have been critical to that success. The author that ran Facebook ads, they also happen to get featured in a major book blog. The recipe tells you that it's Facebook ads. It doesn't tell you about that blog feature, which was partially luck and timing. Third, timing matters more than tactics. The same tactics that work brilliantly one time may not work later. I know this is horrible to hear because we want to have a recipe. We're looking for certainty. But the system is complex and self-organizing. So you're never going to have a direct correlation every time to the activities you do. You can only test and then recalibrate. Fourth, more people following the same recipe makes that recipe less effective. This is crucial. If 1,000 authors all implement the exact same launch strategy, they're all competing for the same early momentum signals. This is what we do to ourselves. Actually, by us all chasing the same results of wanting to be a high-earning author, we create competition. This is the musical chairs problem intensified. Not only are there limited seats, but following the same popular recipe puts you in the largest group fighting for those seats. Here's where it gets nuanced. The artificial cultural market studies showed that the very worst songs never become hits, even with social influence. And the very best songs did better on average across all worlds, even if they weren't always number one. Quality matters. It's not just determinative. Quality matters. It's just not going to be the main determinant. In publishing, this means the very bottom is relatively stable. Authors who don't execute the basics, poor covers, weak writing, no marketing, rarely break through. The quality floor does exist. The very top is somewhat stable. Authors with massive cumulative advantages, like huge mailing lists, recognized brands, platform relationships, they're going to be hard to displace completely. They might drop from 10 to 50, but they rarely fall out of obscurity unless they quit producing. But the middle is constantly churning. Authors making $5,000 to $50,000 are in the zone where randomness and competitiveness dynamics can create a constant reshuffling and exposes them to more and more probability of catching that momentum to climb. This is how new entrants break through. Established authors plateau or decline, tastes change, and an opportunity zone opens up. So let's revisit the scaling dynamic with this randomness factor included. At the bottom, you're trying to build basic competency. You're looking to produce quality works. Can you execute competent marketing? Can you operate a functioning publishing business that maintains a profit? Those are the things that are largely deterministic. Doing the work, building the skills, you reach basic viability. That will get you into that churning middle. You've proven basic competency. Now you're trying to catch momentum that triggers cumulative advantage. This is where the randomness plays a huge role. You can position yourself for luck. Good covers, strong marketing, strategic timing, managing your budget and making sure you remain profitable. But nothing is going to guarantee the break. Some authors at this level will catch momentum and jump to $250,000. Others will execute just as well and stay flat or decline. The difference is random timing, algorithmic quirks, social dynamics, personal tastes, genre changes. All of these things play into what is going to happen in a complex self-organizing system. You can still climb or fall based on how you sustain and amplify your cumulative advantage versus how well new competitors execute when they catch lucky breaks. Here's the key insight. At every level, outcomes are determined by a combination of execution, positioning, and random momentum factors that you can't control. Take it easy on yourself. You can't be responsible or feel guilty that you're not catching a break. That is just how this market works. The recipe myth ignores that randomness and pretends execution is determinative and that the reason the recipe didn't work is because you're just not doing it the right way or hard enough or getting up early enough. So what do you actually want to do when success has so much randomness involved? First, position yourself where luck can find you. You can't control when momentum hits, but you can control whether you're ready when it does. This means maintaining constant quality so that your readers discover you, that they'll stick, building a backlist so momentum on one book spreads to others, cultivating an audience with personalized touch points so random visibility can convert into lasting relationships, operating efficiently so you can sustain your business through the dry spells, waiting for that profit break. Think of it like poker. You can't control what cards you're dealt, but you can position yourself to capitalize when you finally do get the good cards and survive when you don't. Second, take multiple shots on goal. If any single book success has random components, then publishing more books increases your probability of catching that momentum. This isn't a pure volume play. Remember that quality matters. It's about creating more opportunities for luck to strike. 10 quality books have a better chance of catching a random moment than one quality book. It's just that simple. Third, build advantages that compound regardless of any single launch. This is critical. Some advantages depend on momentum, algorithmic visibility, bestseller rank, bestseller list placement. These are fragile because they depend on catching breaks. Other advantages compound even without momentum. Email list growth, audience relationship depth, brand recognition, operational efficiencies, strategic partnerships. They are durable because they accumulate independent of any single random break. They do get multiplied by that break when it happens. Focus on durable advantages. They increase your baseline probability of success and help you to capitalize when that random break does occur. Fourth, understand you're playing a probability game, not a certainty game. Recipes sell certainty. Do this, get that. But the artificial cultural market study proves certainty is false. Success in these markets is probabilistic. This means you can do everything right and still not break through. That's not failure, that's probability. You need to assess decisions by expected value, not guaranteed outcome. You should diversify your shots on goal instead of putting everything into one perfect launch. You should measure progress by whether you're building durable advantages, not by any one single book's outcome. This is so important. So many of us think the one first book we write is going to break us out. Fifth, accept the market rewards strategic patience. If success has random components, then time in the market matters. The longer you can stay in the game with quality work and durable advantages, the more opportunities you have to catch that momentum. This is why the authors who scale aren't always the ones that execute perfectly. They're often the ones who executed consistently for long enough that probability eventually worked into their favor. Here's another thing that the cultural markets study reveals that should give you hope. Being an established winner doesn't protect you from randomness. The current bestsellers do have advantages, but they don't control the momentum lottery any better than you do. They can't guarantee that their next book catches the random breaks that amplify it to massive success. The new entrants can compete, not by having bigger budgets or better tactics, but by taking the shots on goal and positioning themselves to capitalize when they do catch a break. The market is constantly looking for new winners. Readers' taste shift, algorithms change, social dynamics evolve. What worked last year might not work this year. The established authors are competing in a constantly shifting landscape just like you. Your disadvantage is you don't have the accumulated advantages yet. Your advantage is you can position yourself for when the market, for where the market is going, not where it's been. You can take risks established authors would be a little fearful to take because of what they might lose. You can move faster. You can experiment a little more freely. Now, I know you're going to say, but they have a bigger budget than I do. Yes, but they're also going to put that money right where they think it is always going to work. The musical chairs are real, but the music doesn't stop. Chairs are constantly opening up as authors fall out and new authors break through. The question isn't whether you can get a chair. The market proves that new entrants succeed constantly. The question is whether you're positioned to grab one when it opens. Let me give you a framework for thinking about scaling given these dynamics. Assess your positioning, not just your execution. Do you have the quality that meets the threshold where randomness can work for you? Are you taking enough shots on goal to increase your probability? Are you building durable advantages? Are you positioned in the market where new entrants can break through? Think in portfolio terms, not single bets. Don't put everything into one perfect launch and hope for certainty. You're going to be building a portfolio of books, your backlist, that gives you randomness and gives you depth when a book takes off. You can't control whether any one book catches momentum. You can control quality, consistency, audience building, and most importantly, operational efficiency in the form of keeping your business profitable. Focus on controllable inputs that improve your probability, not the outcomes you can't guarantee. Here's a big one. Play for time in the market. The longer you stay in the game with quality work, the more shots on goal you'll get. Build a business model that lets you sustain through dry spells. Don't keep shooting for peaks. Make sure you're building a business that can get through the valleys. Don't burn out chasing certainty that doesn't exist. Watch for market shifts where new opportunities open up. Readers' preferences change. Platforms evolve. Competitive dynamics shift. Established authors age out or shift focus. These shifts create windows where new entrants can break through easily because that probability now exists for the breakthrough. Let me close with what I think is the most important insight from the artificial cultural market study. Success isn't random, but it's not deterministic either. It's probabilistic. Quality matters, execution matters, strategy matters, but they don't guarantee outcomes. They increase probability. And in a market where everyone is competing to catch the random breaks that trigger cumulative advantage, increasing probability is all that you get to control. This is less comforting than recipes that promise certainty. I know that, but it's honest. And this honesty helps you to make the best decisions you can in your business. You can't guarantee that you'll scale to six figures. The market structure and randomness factors mean that most authors won't, no matter how well they execute. But you can increase your probability by building that quality, taking multiple shots, building durable advantages. The musical chairs are real, but the game isn't rigged. New winners emerge constantly. The question is whether you understand the game well enough to position yourself where luck can find you. This is not a recipe. This is a strategy for working within a probability market. Strategy beats tactics every time. Thanks for listening to the Publishing for Profit podcast by ALLi. I'm your host, Joe Solari, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Self-Publishing with ALLi. Find more author advice, tips, and tools at our Self-Publishing Advice Center, selfpublishingadvice.org. And if you haven't already, we invite you to join our organization and become a self-publishing ally. You can do that at allianceindependentauthors.org.